Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. It always helps to know who the audience is, and you probably know each other pretty well by now. This is a great community. I'm just curious, how many people have a mobile project going on right now? Okay, that's awesome. Curious on devices, because everyone's asking that question. How many iOS devices? iPhone, iPad types? Okay, probably half. Android? Okay, Windows? Okay, here's the good one. HPOS? Okay, they're too embarrassed to put their hands up. Not a problem. Okay, great. So when you put these projects together, everyone asks the same question. Where's the ROI? How do I get value out of mobile? And I took up this role on about 5 months ago, and I studied it real hard before I took it. And I learned a lot and coined this term mobile moments, because there is exponential value if you use the power of the device and you're real innovative at what you do. So I run our Center of Excellence for the IBM SAP practice globally. I'm now the mobile leader, but I'm also our Chief Innovation Architect. Functional background for the first 4 or 5 years of my career, technical after that, and I just think the power of this technology and what we have today is really amazing, and that's what I want to show you today on how we do this. For those of you that are here at this session and are looking for something tonight, there is an unpublished event at 5:30 in the Wisteria and Sunflower Room of this hotel with the San Antonio chapter of Enterprise Architects. I'm really doing a presentation there, not this one, a different one, about innovation, and there'll be a panel with a couple CIOs from San Antonio that will be there with a moderator. It's from 5:30 to 8:30. There's a social hour in the first half, presentations, and then a panel. So if you're interested in learning more about innovation and mobility, that's what the topic is tonight. So with that, in this session, I want to talk about these topics here. And first, it's all about this adoption and usable apps and value. Here's the problem. Everyone likes the 99-cent iTunes Store or Android Market app. The average person has 40 apps on their phone, right? You know who you are. How many do you use? The answer is about 10%. The abandonment of apps is incredible by the user. When you build corporate apps, the last thing you want to do after you spend, and believe me, you'll spend more than 99 cents building these apps, is someone not to use them, right? So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about mobile moments and where those are, how to find them, the methodology that we use, and why those are exponential in value, and how you need those in your portfolio. There's new methods to do this when you design for mobility. I'm going to share those methods, and I also have a conceptual demo for outage management that we started at TechEd in Vegas, and I've got about 3 days into this thing. So I'll show you what 3 days of a conceptual mobile moment looks like. Because we're building a variety of apps within IBM, so we just started this one because I knew I was coming to the show, and I started talking with my utility colleagues. We'll talk about the method of engagement and how we actually find these, and then some deployment tactics. And those tactics are interesting because everyone wants to future-proof their phone. What's a guarantee is the way we do mobility today will be different 2-3 years from now. There'll be different protocols, there'll be different connections, there'll be different data standards, different navigation, different devices, peripherals. So how do you future-proof? We'll talk about that. So this agenda, we'll first talk about the transactions, and we'll journey map. I'll talk about prototyping, and I'm talking minutes, not months, and I'll show you how we do that. And then here's the famous problem that everyone has. Do I Google it, or do I have an app for that? And what I'm talking about here, is it web app, or is it native app? That's the problem. If you belong to Google camp, they just say look it up. All you need is a browser, right? Every phone's got one. You should be good. If you're from Apple, there's always one of 290,000 apps in their store. Your enterprise could mimic either one of those, or both, right? It's part of your mobile strategy. Got some lessons learned. We'll go through that. So I'll cut right to it. There's two camps. There's the system of record camp and the system of engagement camp. And this is the foundation for mobile moments. So you have to understand both of them. It's not one or the other, it's both. But it's not very obvious to a lot of people. When most people do a mobile workshop and think about mobile, they're on the left-hand side. What they're trying to do is take the system of record and literally screen scrape VA01 and put it on a device. And the devices today are great, they're easy to use, but no one wants to go through that, right? As consumers, you don't want to go through that. And your users won't either in the enterprise or outside of the enterprise. So what we have now is on the right-hand side a device. The device in my pocket is a dual-core chip. It's got a lot of RAM. It's got 32 gig of memory. And now they come with peripherals. They come in tablet shape. I could shake it. I could bump it. I could swipe it. I can do all types of things to this device to get input in and input out of this device. So as a result, the apps that I build today are different than the apps I built a year ago. Android just came out with new APIs for sound, for pressure, for temperature, and for light. You can write an app based upon the ambient light. So some people are thinking about mobile first before they build websites, because a website is static and it's on a desktop. A mobile device obviously isn't static, and it's got more APIs and more capabilities. So developing mobile first is a leading practice that we're starting to see. So let's talk about this moment of engagement. What the moment of engagement is being able to use the device to access that system of record to benefit the user and benefit the ecosystem. So what I'm talking about is this. The definition is at the bottom. Interactions drive transactions that benefit the user and or the ecosystem. 1 + 1 = 3. That's the math. That's the exponential ROI that everyone wants to get. But if you stay with systems of record, you're not going to get that. You need systems of engagement to get that type of ROI. So how do you do that? Well, you break down the definition. It has to be easy to use. So on the left are all the different ways you can use a device today, right? Next is you got to leverage the technology in the device. So now since I'm swiping or wiping or talking to it or using a pen or touch or voice translation, or the new one I just saw was near-field communication when you walk into a store and I'm going to pay with something and it uses low-frequency sound out of the microphone of the phone. And the receiving phone or cash register picks up the low-frequency vibration, and that's my PIN number. And unless you're a dog, you're never going to hear it, right? So there's a lot of new technologies that are phenomenal that you can use on these devices, depending on the environment, of course. It's not going to work everywhere. So the idea now is I can leverage all these APIs, and from that, I can look upstream, I can look downstream, I can push, I can alert, I can cross-sell, I can upsell, I can mine, I can access. And here's the power of the mobile moment. So most people in the room are my age or older, and you have the senior moment. This is the mobile moment, right? And you all have had it. You don't know it, but you've had it. So I'd like to give examples. The first one is State Farm Insurance. I don't know if anyone's downloaded their app. You dock it in your car. It's the Safe Driver app. I try to tweet you. I try to call you, and it basically blocks the call, sends a tweet back to me. It says, I'm driving. Call you when I get there. But when I get there, it maps my driving pattern and gives me a safety score based upon the accelerometer, and it shows how safe I am. That's great. 6 months later, when I apply for insurance, I upload the app, and they know that, I'm driving on snowy days at 2 o'clock in the mornings when the bars close. Or I'm racing as a consultant. I'm in 4 to 5 cities a week, and I'm racing to the airport the last minute. Versus my mother, who is 80 years old and only drives in the daylight on clear days. Her rate should be different than mine, right? So their order entry is different. That moment is for them and for me to keep me safe. The Vail Ski app, epicmix.com, go there, watch the video. It's a YouTube video. It's all about collaboration on the ski resort, but it's based upon RFID for ski tickets, and it's based upon Google Latitude, so you can talk to your family and friends. But at the end of the day, I know how many runs I made, and I get a score for that, and it's kind of like a Boy Scout badge. And it's good for me as a user, but the ecosystem at Vail and the Vail ski resorts, they own more than just one. They benefit from this because they can now understand my ski patterns. I'm an expert skier, I'm a powder skier, etc. I'm a weekend skier, I'm a weekday skier, I'm a night skier, and they target market to me as a result of me using their app. Again, these are free apps. So what happens is they get the 360-degree view, they can data mine, etc. The list goes on and on of what these are. Now the question is, can you take those consumer mobile moments and apply them to the enterprise? And if so, how? So that's the role that I took on with an IBM, and that's our mantra. That's what we're doing. We're not going to sell the consumer small, easy apps. We're going to sell the big, mega moment apps. So here's an example of one. IBM sells a T&E system that bolts onto SAP. We use it internally, and like any good cost-conscious company, I share my admin with 7 other partners, vice presidents, okay? Used to have my own. Those days are over. So it's all about cutting costs. So instead of my admin doing my expenses, what I can do is take you to lunch as a client, and I literally take out my iPhone, and with the 8-megapixel camera, take a picture of the receipt. It OCRs the receipt, puts it into a form. I talk into the phone and literally explain what I'm trying to do, turns it into a WAV file. Eventually, it'll turn it into text, but it's just a WAV file now. I look at the form to make sure it says, $28 for lunch and not $2,800 for lunch, and just make any exceptions. And then I upload everything to the lowest cost place on the planet, which is an outsourcing center in Brazil that does our T&Es. So my admin doesn't have to do it anymore. It's pretty simple to do, exception-based only. So here, easy to use, using the APIs on the device, and the moment is for me because it saves a ton of time. And it's good for the company because we get to churn our payroll and get our costs paid and all that stuff, right? So that's a simple example of where these moments are. So how do you get them? How do you find them? So there's a concept called journey mapping. And I'm going to just kind of walk you through a consumer example of journey mapping. And once you see it, you can apply it now to corporate. It's basically the same approach. So it's more of a science than an art. And what you want to do is basically follow the red line, right? So I've done these for clients, and I literally staple myself to an order. A sales order, a maintenance order, a purchasing order. I literally go for a drive along with a sales rep. I go on a maintenance call. I literally spend the day with these people to understand what they do. So I understand the persona. I also understand the relationships in the value chain. Who's upstream, who's downstream, what information do they need, how do they get it, what happens if they don't get it, if they get alerted, if they don't get alerted, all these types of things. And what I find out is there's touch points. There's paper, there's fax, there's phone, there's SAP, there's non-SAP. And as a result of that, I ask the question, are you connected or are you disconnected? Is it Wi-Fi? Is it 3G? Is it 4G? Where are you during this day, this journey? And then understand those channels, whether it's the data is coming to him or the transactions are coming to him as type of content, structured or unstructured content. Is it transactional? Is it BI? Is it analytics? What channel does it come to him, and how can he use it? And then I understand the influence of that person. Are you trying to solve a problem? Are you trying to push paper through? Are you trying to get the customer to buy something? Are you trying to fix something? And when you understand all that, the point of arrival is when you can exceed the expectation of the value stream. I'm trying to get 1 + 1 = 3. So I did this for a distribution company, and we had 19 of their sales reps with us in a room during a quarterly review meeting from all over the country. They had guys this is the very first one I did, but it was phenomenal. It proved out and has now worked in other industries. What they had were 19 guys in the room for a 2-day meeting. Some were new hires, some had been with the company for 10 years. We went through this journey mapping with them and came up with 87 mobile moments where they could use this technology, these devices, to help increase the value chain of what they were doing. So since then, we've taken this on into mobile moment workshops, and we're building mobile moment portfolios and basically layered apps, if you will, on how to extract the value using mobility. So a little more detail in the methodology. It's more of a plan, design, construct. And I talk about, the context of the stakeholder, the persona, the outcomes, and we kind of go through that to get what I call the moment of engagement. Where is it that I can exceed expectations? So I'll give you an example. We all fly, right? I got the Delta Airline app. You probably have the Continental app or whatever. And those apps are getting better. They are, I would call, layered apps. They layer stuff on top of them. Every release seems to have a little bit more. But the one that really got me is when I check in on my mobile app, I change my seat, I do the whole thing. I'm at the airport, and I'm in line at security, and my phone rings. And it's my wife, and she says, "Your flight's canceled, come home." I'm like, how can that be? System of engagement is in my hand. I just checked in. I got the barcode. I changed my seat. I'm good to go. I got clients to meet. I got things to do. She goes, "No, they got you on a flight in the morning." I'm like, "You sure?" I'm in security, and all of a sudden, my phone rings, and it's Delta. And it's like, "Honey, it's them. I'll switch over." So I switch over, and they're like, "Oh, well, we just canceled your flight." And I'm like, "Well, why did you call my house?" System of record. My customer master is my home address and my home phone number. It's not my system of engagement, which is in my pocket. Well, I've changed that now, so they'll call me. But it's like, well, why didn't you text me? Why didn't you, tell me on the app, right? And here's another one. The flight's overbooked, right? You've seen this a million times. You get to the gate and what happens? It's a goat rodeo. They're trying to figure out who's going to take $400, $500, or $600. I usually jump over 6, personally. My record is 800. Because, that's just terrible for them. Now, what they've done now is started an auction. And I understand Continental has that on their app, where you check in, and on the app, system of engagement, this flight is overbooked. Are you interested in taking a later flight? And you say yes. Next screen comes up, how much? Radio button, 200, 300, 400, 500. So they get the low water mark, right? Because someone's going to jump at $200 and do it. I get to the gate, there's no rodeo, I'm on the plane, everyone's happy, they save money, right? System of engagement. So it's finding that mobile moment, and they're starting to see it. People are starting to get it, but you have to think in services, right? That's how it works. I know you can't read this as an eye chart, but you've done this a million times, so when I tell you, you'll get it. Eric, I got to give this guy a plug. Eric Berkman from Little Springs did this, and I thought it was brilliant. Everyone goes to Starbucks, right? You probably went this morning if you got up early. Left to right is the process. You anticipate going, you enter the store, you engage with the employees, you exit, and you reflect on your Starbucks visit. Everything below that is the process decomp. It's standing in line, it's hopping in your car, it's pouring the milk, it's everything you could think of, right? This line right here across the top is positive, and this is negative. So these are all the things that went right or went wrong. Maybe the person was rude, maybe the line was long, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is a journey map. This is a really good journey map. Now you can do this to order to cash, procure to pay, hire to retire, any mega process, you can do this. And you can ask anyone at the call center, and they'll fill in these dots for you real fast. Or anyone on a maintenance crew, they'll tell you what works and what doesn't work. And when you're done journey mapping, you've got something like this. Then you apply the mobile moment methodology to it, and you end up with something like this. Before I go to Starbucks, there's an app for that. Because I'm thinking about, do I want to go to a Starbucks with food or no food? Do I want one with Wi-Fi? No Wi-Fi. Do I want on the way home or on the way to the office? Because there's an app for that, right? And when I get there, there's going to be a line. Do I want to call ahead? Do I want to get points? I don't have any money. Do I want to pay with my phone? These are all mobile moments, right? So you can kind of see where it fits. This works in any value chain if you're willing to think that way. So there's a number of examples like this, but at this point I'm hoping you're going to say uncle and get to the utilities part of the presentation, right? Okay, we're getting there. So I think the moments is real. Every industry I've talked to gets it, and it's where everyone wants to be. They don't want to scrape the back end. They want to develop these. There's an approach to do that with journey mapping. That's step one. What's unique about our methodology, which we've service marked, is we call it the mobile moment of engagement. And the reason I service marked it was real easy. At Sapphire, I sat with Chris McLean that runs all mobility for SAP. And we had lunch, just him and I was kind of walking through my strategy and how we're going to do all this. And I've known Chris for a long time, and his son worked for me for 2 years, so we're old friends. And he looked at his watch and says, hey, I got to go. I got to go down and give a presentation in the mobile village. And if you actually go on the Sapphire website, you'll see this. And he gives this presentation, and he said mobile moments 4 times during his presentation. So I quickly called our legal guys and said, we're service marking this, we're trademarking the methodology, the whole deal. Because he got it, totally gets it. So the second step of this is rapid prototyping. I think everyone's done application development. Here's the problem with application development. Words are ambiguous, and everything a user tells you is not really what they want. They don't know what they want. That's the problem. As good IT people, we basically write the 18 or 30-page spec, and we throw it over the wall, and we come back with something, and they look, and they go, that's not what I want. But you show them the swim lane, you show them all the requirements, and you get in an argument, and you're going to be late, and you'll throw money at it, and all that. So what we do is we use a variety of tools. In the mobile world, there's emulation. Every BlackBerry, Android, or iOS has an emulator, and it basically is what it looks like on the phone, which is great. A simulator is the same thing, but you're trying to address all the peripherals that go with it. Some people use them, some don't. Visualization is kind of like the design version of these tools. So we use visualization, which are just high-fidelity wireframes, ahead of time. Some people call them paper mock-ups, and those work too. But, drive it before you buy it. That's what we're trying to do. We want to show them the UI. We want to show them the navigation. So if you think about widgets, we have built a whole palette of UI widgets. And we can drag these widgets onto the desktop and basically mock up a screen real fast. And it's interactive and clickable. This we attach to the spec. So it's not one or the other, it's both. But the idea is you do multiple visualizations before you commit to the spec and before you commit to the build. We've taken it one step farther in IBM. I host these on the IBM cloud. So what happens now, and if you come to the session this afternoon, I'll show you, I basically give the URL out at every meeting. Every event I go to, I have a URL, and I just give them it, and they hit the IBM cloud on their iPad, Android phone, Nokia phone, doesn't matter. And everything renders in a browser, right? And I basically have it so it renders in their browser in HTML5. So they get to see the app right on their phone. Now it's a web app. It's connected. It's not a disconnected app. It doesn't store data and all that stuff. But for prototyping, it's the way to go. So drive it before you buy it. Think of it as a web app. And I use it for change management too. You'd be surprised how many people look at that and you want me to do what? Or, this guy can't read, or this guy wears gloves, or, you hear everything. So as a result, that helps. And then last, I use it as a change request tool. So basically, if I want to make modifications, I do it in visualization first before I commit to a commitment and a price. So it helps me understand in post-production how to do this. So I am going to do a demo, and I'm going to actually show you what we started 3 days ago in Vegas. Irene came through and really made a mess, and we're going to see more of that, and I think everyone in utilities knows that. So the actors are on the left. There's a power outage, and guess what? Everyone is tweeting about the power outage. So why not integrate Twitter with SAP CRM in the call center? Well, let's record the call in CRM, and let's go ahead and schedule this. And we use ClickSoft. There's a lot of other ways, SAP PM, to schedule the work order. What you see in purple is what I have not done. But it's part of the flow. But you get it. The guy has to accept the order, right? So he can accept the order on his iPhone or whatever. We haven't done that yet. And then he needs to assess the outage. The assessing the outage, we're going to use augmented reality. So that's kind of a big word. Augmented reality is a mobile moment on steroids. It's probably the best way to talk about it. So I'll show you an augmented reality demo first on YouTube so you get it, and then I'll show you this. We assess the outage. He's going to patrol the circuit. Ideally, we want to prioritize the service. You go down a circuit, guess what? With smart meters, I know that there might be 5 hospitals or special customers that I had to bring service to first before this other part of the branch of the circuit. So with what we haven't built is an app that'll do that. But that's the goal, is augmented reality. I hold the phone up and I look and I say, oh, wow, there's 5 VIP customers on this route and not on this branch. I need to collaborate with the crew. We've built that in with a tree crew because we're going to have to bring a tree crew in to do that. And then the next thing is we've got all the history in this app. You remember, system of engagement, system of record. Guess what the system of record is? It's Maximo, it's Indus, it's SAPM, it's whatever you got on the back end. We're putting that on the device, and we'll find out that transformer is 8 years old, and the population has tripled, or the usage has tripled, or the maintenance is an issue. Let's upgrade the transformer from 25 kilovolt to 50 or 75. And let's work with an engineer or a team to do that and be collaborative. We'll record the repair, then bring the service back online. So that's basically the flow. Let me show you augmented reality real fast so you get a sense of what I'm talking about. And this is like 40 seconds, but you'll get it.
I'm automatically seeing nearby restaurants and their ratings wherever I look with the iPhone. You'll notice I can interact with the controller and virtually walk down the street with the iPhone. I can tap the restaurants to see the full review and details. And all of this is seamlessly integrated into Zagat2Go. I can easily go back to listings, switch to a map view, or select the augmented reality view again.
Okay, so what if you're patrolling a line that's got a maintenance order on it, and you pick up that phone, and instead of looking at restaurants, you're looking at transformers. You're looking at asset masters from the back end, system of record, right? And you can tap on that and pull up information from the system of record. You're not typing, you're tapping. One tap, and it pulls up. And then from there, you can pull up a map. You can understand you just get a different view of what you're trying to do. So that's the concept of this app, using virtual reality. I don't know if anyone's ever seen these apps before. There's virtual reality browsers, but there's a great one for renting a house. You literally walk down a neighborhood, you hold up the phone, the system of record is houseforrent.com, and it literally pushes all the houses for rent. And there's like 100 on the street, right? So you say, yeah, but I want 3-bedroom, 2-bath. You pop up a filter and you just slider bar, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. And all of a sudden, there's 50 on the street, there's 4. Instantly. So, these tools are that easy to use, and you'll see them in the consumer world if you're not using them already. Why don't we use them in the corporate world? That's the concept. So with that, let me show you our demo based upon the flow that I had. SAP CRM integrated with Twitter. NetWeaver Business Client looks and feels like the real thing. It's not. It's a mock-up. There's no man behind the curtain. This is a cloud library. This is what people are tweeting about. This utility has 3,178 tweets, and by far this is the biggest one. So what I want to do is click on this one, and when I click on this one, the 3,178 turns into 1,805. So 1,805 people know there's an outage of some type. They could have called the call center, maybe they did, but they're definitely tweeting about it. And notice the colors are all red. So there's positive and negative words that you code into this sentiment analysis, and outage is a bad word, right? So when you get outages, you get a lot of reds, and this guy's got like triple reds, so he's really pissed on what he said in his tweet. So as a call center representative, what I would do is, I could scroll through every one of these and write individual messages, or I can just say select all, put a message in there saying, hey, we know there's an outage, we're working on it, we'll get back to you, keep your Twitter in your pocket. We send the message and bam, it shows up, there it is, right? So the next step in the process is I'm now on the call center and the phone is ringing, right? And I need to put my glasses on for this. So SAP CRM, inbound call, telephone call, operational electrical issue, investigate and proceed, repair electrical issue, in progress, and we hit follow up. And we follow up, we see there's other calls associated with this, but it's created a service record on the back end, right? So we'll go ahead and assess the notifications, and we notice there's a lot in this block on Willow Grove. So at this point, we need to get it scheduled, right? So go ahead and send it out, and there's been a schedule notification created, a service notification created, and an inspector has been sent out there to patrol the line and do the next step. So with that, we're going to switch actors, and we're going to actually go to the scheduler. This scheduler, again, is an SAP portal. He'll open the portal to see ClickSoft. He'll look at all of his people that are out in the crew today. And again, don't get hung up on what the system of record is. I'm setting up the scenario. But he can see those on a map and assign the person who's nearest to this on the map. You can overlay traffic and make sure that you get the right guy in a short amount of time and all that type of thing. So we're going to assign this person here to the job. He gets the work order notification on his phone, which I haven't built yet. But he has an iPhone. He's going to click it. And he's going to actually go to his utility maintenance app. And with that app, he's going to use virtual reality. He's basically going to use the system of record on the back end, but we're going to make it real easy for him. He has these, we call them layers. He has an asset ID layer, a tree crew layer, a wiring layer, engineering drawings, parts inventory, work order history, he subscribes to all these, right? So he's going to go to his favorites, and based upon the security of the system, he has to be authenticated to the back end and all that stuff. But here, he maybe wants to get something out of Maximo, as an example, before he goes on the patrol. So we'll go ahead and add that to his active layer. He can log in, put in his user ID and password. And again, it's that look and feel that this is what it's going to feel like and what you're going to have to do. And you notice we've added the layer. This is great. So now he's at the site. He's armed his phone with the back end that he needs. So what he's going to do now is take a picture of the transformer. And what you're going to see, and again, this could be a video or a picture. Has anyone used Google Goggles as an application? A couple people. You take a picture of something, it looks it up as a JPEG. And it might be a picture of a building or a picture of a sign, or if you go to a museum, a picture of art, you can look it up and get information about the picture, like the artist and all this kind of stuff. And I did some stuff in Spanish. I took pictures and it translated and told me what it was. This is an asset master. There's a picture in SAP MM to look this up. So virtual reality, he looks that up, but we also know the GPS locations of where this guy is standing. Exactly where he's standing, because his phone's telling us this. So when he takes this picture, look what happens. It pops up a radar, 1001, 1002, 1003, count about 5 seconds. It nicks the connection to the back end. It comes back and says, here's where you are compared to the other transformers in the area. And what you'll see is basically transformers popping up, and he'll be able to look those up on the back end and get information from those. Or at least that's the way it's supposed to work. There it is. There's the first one. He's standing in front of this one, and there's the third one. So if there's a power line, he's literally standing between 3 transformers. This one has a part number, he has the installation date, and he can get more information. So he finds out it's a 25, should be kilovolt transformer. He's got the date, he's got the inspection, he's got outage history. So he can go look and see what's going on of this transformer. Again, system of record, system of engagement. He's accessing those because he subscribes to this information. He's got the call center history that goes with this, so he understands what's happening. And here he might want to repair this, upgrade the transformer. Here's where he has more information than he's had in the past. So let's go to the next layer. The next layer, he needs to collaborate with a crew. And remember, he subscribes to the tree crew. So the tree crew gets looked up on the back end based upon availability. It overlays them on a Google map. And then from there, he can literally start a conversation with the tree crew or the repair tech or wherever he's trying to bring onto his job. So again, he's using social computing, SAP HR on the back end, Google Maps on the front end, overlaying it onto his phone. So from all that, he can go back to his process and basically report back on the patrol. So here, he literally says, this is the information, because he copied it from the picture, installation date, manufacturer, here's the description of what happened. And again, he could talk this in and it could translate it, he could type it in. There's different ways of getting this information into here. He could take pictures of what's happening, submit all that, and any additional notes he puts in, hits OK, and bam, it's back up into the system of record, which is the back end. So it's an engaging app to help do patrols and setup. And this is step 1. Step 2 would be adding the engineer and the transformer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it gets back to stapling yourself to a maintenance order, journey mapping this person all the way through, asking these questions: how does this device work? How can it help him? 3 days. Start to finish, we call it protocycling, augmented reality, social computing, ease of use, and really 0 lines of code. It's all virtual development. And this is sitting on the IBM cloud. I can hand this out as a URL. People can go through it and say, it doesn't work that way. It's got to work this way. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's have this discussion. So we do all this before we ship the spec to India. We build anything. So the next question, and I'll spend more time this afternoon on this, is what kind of apps do I need? Where's the value? And it comes down to this question here is, am I using a browser-based or an app-based? And what you see here with these bars on the bottom is cost of ownership is more expensive to build an app, but the portability and reusability is easier on the left-hand side, because if you have a browser, it's going to work anywhere. But the richness is better with a real app. So there's a trade-off, and what we advise clients on, it's a portfolio. You have to understand the user, you have to understand the device, the environment. Or am I just doing lookups? Am I getting alerts, pushes? Do I need the camera? What do I need? So the answer is, it depends, right? Yeah, and without getting into any of the tools, you need to understand the type of apps you're going to build. And the reality is, you're not building 3 apps. You're building 33. You're building 133 before it's over. You will have a lot of apps. You'll have apps, internal apps, you'll have external apps, you'll have a corporate app store. I was sitting in a session yesterday, listening to a panel. There's a utility here that puts in second meters for cars. Some do, some don't, but they put in an alternative meter. And they underestimated what it costs to do that, because they need the electrician, they need the inspector, they need the home. There ought to be an app for that, right? And they're not just doing one. They're going to put in thousands of these, and they're getting killed on the first 500. So you can start seeing what's the system of record that guy needs. And by the way, if I already have that, why can't I use that app somewhere else? So when I did this workshop for this distribution company, we had 87 moments. Half of them went to the district manager, who wanted the same information. The customer wanted the same information. The suppliers wanted the same information. So everyone just wants that easy access to the back end. Is basically what's happening here. I'll talk about a little more of this with the enterprise architects tomorrow. The other thing I run into a lot is once you figure out what type of apps, nobody can draw this line. No one understands or wants to draw this line. So what this line is basically the cheapest apps you can build are across the top, the most expensive apps are across the bottom. And the question is, who's your audience? What type of device? Am I system of record or system of engagement? Because now you know the difference, right? Systems of engagement costs more, but you get a lot more with it. And what am I trying to put onto the user? Information, content. And this is how you architect your mobile devices and mobile applications. This same analogy we have for mobile device management. App stores, security, policies, the logistics of getting a device. We deploy 20,000 BlackBerries to a trucking company. That's no small feat. You got to buy 20,000 BlackBerries. You got to load them with software. You got to get them out to 20,000 truck drivers that are moving around all the time. You got to train them, and you got to answer the phone. And turn them on too. You got to get their phone number and turn them on. So if you're going to deploy hundreds of phones, you better think about how you're going to do it and how you're going to maintain it. Other thing I look at when I build apps and develop strategies with customer are these 4 steps. You got to have scale. Even though these mobile moments have great ROIs, if you don't have scale, you're not going to value from it. So scale comes in a couple ways. One of them is the layered approach. I'm building this, but I know I'm going to add release 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to share the mobile object underneath. Everyone wants access to this system of record. I've got that on a screen. Now I could use it in 20 other apps. That's good. Or it's just volume, pure people. It's another way to get scale. Next is managing the functional scope and complexity. So this is the whole thing about release management and having targeted releases and how you do that across broader audiences to capitalize on number 1. Lowest TCO is really the matrix that you see on the right. And that is really a challenge for people because they're not sure what OS, what market, what app, what location, you know. It's a moving target. So you can't do them all. That's the problem. It gets too expensive. So you got to pick the ones you think are going to have value, and you monitor those. You'd be surprised the monitoring technology that's out there today on who's using my app, how long did they use it, what device were they on, what network were they on, were they in Wi-Fi or were they in 3G, and then at least on the industrial apps, what I've seen is the breakage and what it costs to service. The average field operation app gets updated 4 times a year. And the outage has been documented as well on what it costs to replace and fix these phones if they break. So, because that's all they're relying on, right? If you're out there in the field with a device, that's it. So all this helps you define your sustainment approach, which is the last thing. How are you going to manage this? A couple apps, couple people, fine. You started getting into north of a dozen apps and a couple hundred users. The phone's going to ring. Someone's going to lose a phone. You're going to be pushing patches, having releases. All this is part of your approach to achieving value. Another area we spend a lot of time is mobile testing. And people just think testing is easy, and I thought so too. But in mobile, it's a different game for the simple reason that devices aren't the same. Android comes out with a new operating system every 6 months, so does Apple. And there's a thing called code forking where, the manufacturer will do their own thing to Android because it's open source. So Motorola's version of Android is different than somebody else's. A lot of people do mobile moments, so they got these APIs. So you're testing peripherals and cameras and calendars and, bump and swipe and all this. Some people use the cloud. So you've got to maybe make sure you test the connections. You also need to test the patches. How are you going to push something to somebody? And how will that work? Do they have to come back into the office? Do they have to be tethered? So you're looking at testing all this. So there's a whole different types of testing listed on the side. So there's ways of automating this. There's third parties. There's techniques. When you develop your mobile strategy, think through all these. Very important. There's an answer for everyone, but it's not clear, and there's no universal answer. It's 3 vendors. It's 3 approaches, minimum. So, some lessons learned. Everyone loves a touchscreen except for the guy with gloves or fat fingers. So we fixed that. We give him gestures. There's browsers out there where you just draw a symbol and it launches the app for you. Or you can shake it or you can bump it. People that really need to see a lot, we give them tablets. I've seen iPads with Velcro on the back of a forklift in a freezer warehouse environment. And it sure beats the $3,500 ruggedized Windows CE tablets they used to have. And they've broken a couple, and at $400 a crack, you can break a lot, and that's not a problem. The other thing I found out is that people on these devices, if you give them an iPhone or an Android phone, they treat it like one. You give them a ruggedized device, they treat it like a ruggedized device. And the reason why is everyone's got an iPhone or an Android phone anyways because the carriers are giving them to them, right? So they learn from that. The trade-off between industrial and consumer in this one client was 18 barcodes. A sales rep might go barcode something for the occasional replenishment order at a customer, but if the number's more than 18, he needs an industrial Windows CE with a trigger because, you're doing hundreds of scans a day. You're not going to be using your iPhone, right? So 18 was the magic number. So there are rules of thumb now to figure out the types of devices and lessons learned. I always plan for disconnected unless I'm in a manufacturing environment. Because lo and behold, you will drop a connection and then you're done and you're starting all over again and you frustrate people. I think everyone's worked with the unions. That's not an unknown. Focus groups with visualization is a really good thing to do. And of course, how you teach people. To me, if you have to spend a lot of time in training, you did a bad job on the app. These things should be self-explanatory. I don't know if anyone remembers the day they opened their iPad box. Mine came from China, man. I couldn't wait. I ripped open the DHL envelope. I opened this thing up. It's like, wow, this is cool. Took it out and I looked. I'm like, where's the instructions? There were none. You just hit the button and go, right? That's what you want training to be like. They literally go to the App Store, they download your app, and they go. And your consumers will download their app, and you better hope they don't call. Point them to a YouTube video. Send them a Twitter. You don't want them to call. So with that, I'll... conclusions and questions. So the conclusions is, this is a digital transformation. This time mobile will work. Bandwidth's great, devices are great, they're dirt cheap, and the first time in history, it's BYOD. Bring your own device. I remember when I went to work and got my first desktop, I got my first laptop, and I got my first company phone and company car. I bring my own PC now. Half my team does. I bring my own phone. I don't like the one they give me. I change them every 6 months anyways. So it's different this time. And we've got a whole group of people that are living on these devices. And socially in other countries, this device is freedom. It's the internet, it's communications. And if you live in Kabul, Afghanistan, and you get paid by the government or that job that we've created, and you've got to go to a teller and deposit that check, you're a dead man. Dead man walking. So you know what we do? Mobile banking. Huge there. Huge. Third world, that's huge. The game's changed, right? These devices are here to stay. I can go into medical, I can go into hundreds of industries that are changing the game. Mobile moments, I think I talked enough about. Have a portfolio of those. It's not one, it's a dozen. Build them in layers. Journey map. And when you journey map, add systems, add roles, add KPIs, add your business case, and you'll find out that you've got one place where everything resides. And with that, I will open it up to questions. You need a microphone.
Hi, Anita Bateman from CPS Energy. One of your slides, you had a higher cost factor on hybrid apps versus native apps. I was wondering if you could talk to that a little bit about what you're seeing from a development cost standpoint.
As you move to the right of that slide, the native apps are a little different, and there's a reason to go native. The hybrid is getting better and better, but the reason you go native is you're following the operating system of that vendor. You like where they're going, or there's a peripheral or an API. The hybrids don't subscribe to all the APIs, so that's the problem. You might want a hardware button on the device. You have to go native. You want a peripheral, those types of things. The costs are high on that right-hand side, only for the simple reason that the tooling, you've got to develop, if you're using Sybase, you've got to develop in Sybase, then develop in native. And you've got to be able to support it and have skill sets and development environments. So it's just a little more expensive to do it in native. By the way, every great app you've ever seen is done in native. It really is. That's where the really great ones are. The hybrids are getting better, but they're not there yet. But they're more portable, right? That's why we do it. Other questions? Okay, go out and find your mobile moments. And please do fill out the evaluations. I appreciate any feedback.